I also know you want to thank Victoria for arranging a delicious meal. Those of us that here are having, I see a bunch of heads nodding. And Victoria, thank you very much. This is from Brooklyn Baptist Catering Service again. They are good. So thank you. And those online, we are glad to have you with us and hope you are getting some good lunch as we speak as well. Know that we are always going to have some good food here. You're able to join us as well. All right, so we're going to get on with the meeting and thank you all for being patient online. We have determined we have a quorum. Thank you all very much. Number 2, approve order and contents of the overall agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Second. Mr. Bell, Mr. McLeod, I believe. Victoria, thanks for all your help. I tell you what, they are ready to go today. Any comments or questions? If not, you're in favor of approving the order and contents, please say aye. Aye. And opposed? And that agenda is approved. Invocation is Kenna Harmon, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you once again to be able to meet our family. We ask that you guide our decisions and bless our decisions. We ask that you bless this to the Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. All right, Chairman's introduction. Ben, you go first, please.
All right, we got a lot of good news around the region. I'm going to start off with workforce. The Midlands Workforce Development Board has selected their 2022 winner of the Dennis Hunter Workforce WIO of Youth of the Year Award. This is a picture of Shapira Harris. She started her journey with WIO of Youth program as a co-enrolled participant in Midlands Tech in the hired program. She received training as a patient care technician and is now a certified nurse assistant. During her career, she took several IT courses, but her love for the medical field and assisting people one-on-one drew her back to health. Ms. Harris is still actively engaged in the WIO Youth program and was recently interviewed. And you can see that on the Midlands Workforce Development website. Ms. Harris, I don't know if y'all knew Mr. Hunter, but he was the previous Midlands Workforce Development Board chair. He passed away a few years ago. And this award was in his honor.
Congratulations, Ms. Harris.
Yeah, that's great. The Central Midlands Ombudsman staff on June 14th hosted the Weed World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. We had the pleasure of having Dr. Nicole Kavanaugh and Ms. Harmon as the speakers. They reviewed the South Carolina Omnibus Adult Act Protection Act, and that defines exploitation, abuse, and neglect. We actually reported this training, so it is available, and we would like to thank Daryl Hudson, Rebecca Conley, and Ms. Abrams for being able to attend this program. It was very well done, and this is something that they do every year. Victoria and the staff did a great job of pulling this together. This gentleman is going to be working with Gregory in the research and development program. This is Alexander Fulham. He's a fall 2020 graduate from the USC Geography Department in GIS. He's going to be working with Greg this summer, probably through the end of the year, working on the 2022 SEDS update and comp updates. So we're real happy to have him. This is very interesting grant that's available, Safe Streets and Roads for All. This is a program information that Reginald shared, and it's available to regional, local, and tribal governments. And it's quite a bit of funding. It's $5 to $6 billion in funding, and it's going to be used for developing or updating comprehensive safety action plans. MPOs, counties, cities, towns, and other special districts are eligible entities. And so this, I'll send out some more information about this afternoon when I send out the PowerPoints. And also SCDOT is in the process of providing contract authorization and approval for the bike share feasibility expansion study that we'll talk about in the future. And then I believe this is the last thing, Candace Holloway, our AAA director, was invited to a special conference, or excuse me, roundtable that Senator Scott's putting on July the 12th. You can see here on the right, those are some of the topics they're going to be discussing. So the top will be represented with that. Super.
All right, some news from around, just some, always like to find the good news. And let's see, a couple of things. This was neat, I thought. Businesses in 5 Points received makeovers after getting city funding, and the city of Columbia made available forgivable loans. You stay in business 2 years after you get this, $15,000 for exterior work and $10,000 for interior work. And so I watched the interview, and a number of merchants in 5 Points got this program, and they're excited about it. So good for 5 Points and good for the city of Columbia. Chapin leaders are excited about a new manufacturing facility. I can't quite read the name from this distance. I had it, but they're going to employ 60 to 75 people. So congratulations to our friends from Chapin and Lexington County. And then in Newberry, Samsung's having a big celebration Tuesday coming. They are now 5 years in Newberry County. They spent $500 million, employed 1,500 people, and the governor's coming to that Tuesday. You'll probably see that on the news, but we're excited about that. In sports news, among our state champions in the Midland Spring Valley, a proud track tradition, won their first state championship in a decade. And that was one of the, we had several make the upper state or lower state finals, but I believe that was one of our few state championships I want to highlight. I think great collegiate one softball as well. All right, and so good news, Ben, I'm going to encourage our member governments and our individuals to push out that good news, because I'm searching the media and they're not doing a very good job of it. So when you have something good, I encourage you to put it on your own social media of your town and your county, because it is few and far between on our media. They've always been that way, but I think it's even more so now. Do we have any media? Well, they're just not looking at that good news right now, I don't think. So I encourage y'all to push it out. All right, two more things. Regional spotlight. We didn't have a volunteer for our August meeting. Some of our counties have done it. We need some of our towns to step up, please, and tell us about 3 minutes of good things going on in their towns, their cities. And that's the smaller towns. I think all our big ones have done it. But Newberry hasn't done it, for example. I'd rather somebody else do it. But we need a regional spotlight for August. And then we have we have guests here today. We welcome all guests, but especially glad to have Angie Connor from Fairfield County Council Aging, and Andrew Boozer from Senior Resources in Richland County. And last month, we talked about the great job Candace had, and y'all were right there with her on the big senior celebration. So thank y'all for being a part of that. That make that a big success. And thanks for all y'all doing. Thanks for coming today. All right. With that, we're going to go to the consent agenda. First, the meeting minutes from our last meeting. We have 2 corrections we need to make. We know of, maybe y'all might have some more. Y'all remember, well, we talked about, does the COG record no votes by name? And Ben has come back and said by tradition we do. And so that is done in item C4. A no vote is reported by name. In C5, which was the White Pond Road Whiting Way intersection, the minutes, we need to make a correction. The motion was approved. Brian Carter voted no on this action item. So I'd like to make that addition or correction to the minutes. Record that, and then Mr. Limey has an addition he would like to make to the minutes, please.
I'll make the motion to adopt the minutes, subject to your change and my recommended change. Mine was just to confirm that CMRTA representative on item C4 assured the board that no lobbyist had been hired so far, and that as the project continues, that they would consult with the South Carolina State Office in Washington, D.C.
Very good. I should have read it. During discussion, a CMRTA public COG board, no lobbyist contract has been awarded, and contact will be made with the South Carolina Washington Liaison Office at the project advances. This has been a subject Mr. Lyman's raised a couple of times, and he just would like to confirm in the minutes that it is status quo, basically. They have not done that. And that is his addition to the minutes, which I think would be good and warranted. All right, y'all heard those 2 additions or any other corrections to the minutes? Additions? If not, with those 2 items noted, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes And second, Mr. Bell. Any questions or discussion? All right, man. Is this the agenda? All right. We have a motion second here approved, but now consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. And opposed. And that is done. Thank you very much. Regular agenda. All right, we're going to action items. Item number one, the most important item of the day, I think, Ben,
Yes, sir.
is the 2023 COG annual budget work program. Hope we can get that approved.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vaughn, make your presentation.
That's enclosure 3 in your packet. It has a green cover. I'd like to start off talking about the different programs that we have in the COG. We all work together collaboratively and coordinate and communicate to be successful. Our budgeting process starts with input from each of our program directors, who prepares a preliminary budget using contracts and grants that we have already received and those that have been submitted to federal and state agencies and management fields that will be funded. Our first objective is to make certain that all of our work programs are staffed and that we are maximizing our revenues and charging as little to our local dollars, the membership dues that we get from our member governments. And I always like to thank each of you, each of our member governments for providing support to the COG. We are an extension of your government and we work directly for you. I want to highlight a few of the accomplishments. I mean, there's actually many accomplishments that we did this year. But we're committed to providing high quality services, and we're dedicated to sustaining and improving the quality of life for the entire region. Here are some of the successful highlights of the past fiscal year. Recruitment of additional volunteers for the Ombudsman Friendly Visitor Program. Professional technical assistance to our CMCOG member governments, including development and administrative support for several community development projects. Gregory works directly with our member governments. Providing quality and compassionate services to our seniors, to the aging programs, to the Area Agency on Aging and the Aging Disability Resource Center. Advocating on behalf of our seniors that have been abused, neglected, or exploited through the Ombudsman program. We've received an unqualified financial compliance on it. We've been working on minor capital improvements in the building that we've talked about at some of our previous meetings. A couple of the things that we've been able to accomplish, we've added some new HVAC units to our building, which has been very, very nice.
This week especially.
Yes, sir. We've been we have been replacing all the chairs in the building. By the time, hopefully by the end of next week, I'll have a new chair for every staff member. A nice, comfortable chair. We started on that project back in April. We've been buying those in batches of 10, so take a while to put together. You know, they come in a big box, so that's a lot of fun. But we do everything. Gregory has been we've been hosting orientation and ongoing training requirements for our local elected and appointed officials. We actually do that over at MAST, at the MAST building. They've been a great partner. Reginald continues to implement the NPO and COATS transportation improvement programs. We're working on tool water quality management planning. We've added additional staffing into the aging program. And then the workforce program continues to work with Equus Workforce Services in Fairfield County to provide one-stop as the one-stop operator for the region. So those are just a couple of our major accomplishments. Some of the budget highlights. This proposed budget's just under $15 million. The operating budget is $8.8 million. 41% of the total funds are pass-through funds that are through our contracted services for aging and Midlands workforce development contractors. The objective, one of our main objectives, is continue to build a fiscal foundation for the future. In this budget, I'm requesting a cost of living increase for the staff at 5%. Last year we did 2%. The executive committee had asked if we were able to do a 5%. We would certainly appreciate the support of the board for that. We're going to continue capital improvements into this upcoming year and continue to provide the very best services on behalf of all the member residents. So our total budget was, like I said, approximately 14.9 million with an operating budget of 8.6 million. Roughly 6.1 million and 41% is pass-through dollars. You can see down there at the bottom, contracted services. Our local revenues account for approximately 19%.
Okay.
As you can see, most of the COGS funding is federal and state grants. The membership dues, as I've stated before, are come from you, and it's based on 87 cents per capita. Right now, it's based on the 2010 population, as the 2020 population numbers are, I guess, finalized here this summer as more detail comes out. Eventually, we'll be adjusting those numbers for membership dues, and that's something that I'll have to bring to the executive committee for approval. And that's actually money that's well spent, because those doesn't change for a whole decade. Doesn't change for a whole decade. So the COP's biggest resource is the staff, their knowledge and expertise. Personnel costs are always going to be one of our biggest expenses. And it's our goal to maximize our grant funding by matching up the right mix of staff to the right funding programs. Some of the program highlights for this upcoming year, we're gonna, I'd like to say we don't just develop plans to sit on a shelf. You've seen in the past, a lot of the different plans that we've done in transportation, for example. We've done a lot of different corridor studies, the long-range transportation plan. These are plans that we have to develop in order to implement and actually, move into construction and do various other things. Same thing in the aging program. There's an update that has to be completed. I don't know how often that's done. Is it every 5 years? The annual update that y'all have to do every 4 years. So every program has some sort of plan that we have to complete to move forward. So we will continue to work with the SC Aging Network policies and procedures that we get through SCDOA, the South Carolina Department of Aging, focusing on our core aging programs, as well as cross-training our staff, so that we always have someone that can back someone up. We're going to add additional friendly visitor volunteers in the ombudsman program, as well as host events and training. Throughout the year, ANS program will host many different events, many different training opportunities, and their actual continuing education credits that the folks get. So it's a really good opportunity. I already mentioned implementing the CMCOG work in rural programs and planning. Gregory's had a lot of regional planning things that he's working on. The 208 water quality plan will be updated in this current year, in this upcoming year, as well as the SEDS 2022 update. And Greg will talk about that a little bit more in this meeting, as well as working with community development projects. And I've been wanting to get some of that census data that's coming out, and actually do some analysis in GIS and have our GIS manager, Jason, produce some maps and reports and bring a presentation here to the board for you here in the near future. And of course, we use all of that data that comes out to support each of our programs as well, and they update their plans. And then the Midlands Workforce Development Board will continue to serve with WIOA, with the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, through their contractors as well. So if in this document, you'll notice that there's a summary budget on pages 13 and 14. In the executive committee, we had a discussion about bringing in the office community and more detailed line by line item that will give you more detail, and we'll be bringing that to you at the office meeting. So, like I said earlier, this is approximately $15 million budget, of which 41% of it is contracted services to our aging contractors and the Midlands Workforce Development Board. And then you'll see on pages 13 and 14 are revenues. And then on the back are, the expenditures that we have summarized. And August will bring that back to you in more detail. As you see, as you go through the document, you'll notice that I've also included the work program by each department. This talks about program priorities that we have in the upcoming year, as well as current and future projects that we will be working on. For example, in the area agency on aging, down on the bottom of page 19, you'll see that we'll be updating the area plan and expanding additional COVID-19 vaccine grant that we see. I'm just going to hit a couple of them. An ANS program and the long-term care ombudsman program. At the bottom, we'll continue to distribute materials. And then we create a lot of documents in-house that get shared out, as well as events that I mentioned earlier, and recruiting additional volunteers throughout the region. And again, we've had a lot of good success with getting some new volunteers here recently. Thanks to the city of Columbia and city of Newberry helping share out having their social media. Gregory is going to be updating the two quality plans will sense update. Those are probably two of the biggest projects. I would think, right, as well as CDG. And I did talk about Gregory, adding some additional staff in the planning as well as in finance. Those are some areas that we need some additional staff. And then transportation rental has a whole list of different things that he'll be working on. We'll see that on 24 and 25. And then finally, Chris White and the workforce development program. They run the one-stop centers, Equus Workforce Services, runs that on behalf of us, for us, and Chris manages that contract. That's about all I have. This is an action item. So we would be happy to entertain or answer questions and ask for approval of this proposal.
Questions?
Yes, and it is clear we're using the new census data for the proposed 23 budget for revenue from local governments.
5 years ago, the executive committee adjusted the per capita rate on a sliding scale. It went up like 2 pennies, 15 cents over 5 years. And so it's still based on the 2020 census. Each year it's adjusted. So it's gonna stop at, it used to be 75 cents per capita, now it's 87.
Right.
And we'll be adjusting using the 2020 numbers in the future. It's usually done usually in the third year after the census data is come out.
And the 2020 numbers will be on the 87 cents or is it even lower?
No, it'll stay on 87. It'll stay on 87.
So just on the budget summary, going from 611,000 to 700,000.
Yeah, that's just based on 87 cents with the 2020.
With the new population.
With the 2010.
What was last year's? You say it was on a sliding scale and it's been adjusted annually. So what was last year's actual rate?
I think it was 84.7.
So 3 point doesn't compute, but 3 point something percent does not equal a 14.45% increase in revenue. For some, maybe my math is wrong, but I just see a significant jump there but okay, so, and it's gonna go up again on that 5-year deal, or is there?
Yeah, the per capita rate will stay the same. The only adjustment will be the population.
Unless we vote to increase.
Right.
Again, okay.
So
I have a
what's-
question on indirect cost recovery, and I have an issue with the fact that this year's budget versus last year's budget, not this year's budget versus last year's performance against that budget. And of course, originally the budget last year for indirect recovery was like 700,000. The original budget was 789,000. So we have here revised budget 554. So you were performing 75% to last year's budget, and now you're going to increase the recovery by 75%. You have a plan.
Well, hired additional staff to recover some additional rent.
So they have goals and so forth. On the outlay portion of it, capital, you have so you talked about chairs and so forth, 284,000 versus 59,000 in last year's budget. I don't know what last year's actual were.
I think I have that in, I think I put it on page.
Well, all right, but my question is, do you have a long-term capital plan for the building
Yes, sir.
that you reside in now?
We do
It's
have-
obvious that building is inadequate by the fact that we are here, all right? And it may
Yes.
be cost effective to outsource the meetings of the board. But we have a conference room that apparently, and even before COVID, it was a crowded situation. So do we have a long-term plan on that building? And do we have a reserve program so that we can be prepared to do something?
We do have a reserve program on maintenance on the building. We don't have like a long-term plan on,
Do you
expansion.
see this group meeting in that building 10 years from now, or do you see a need for another building?
And
I would say the property.
yeah, I would say right now that conference room is, can't really hold more than 30 people comfortably at a board setup. Then you add people around the table.
Well,
So it's not
The question is, then, do we have someone looking at what the long-term physical infrastructure for this organization is going to be 5 and 10 years from now?
We do not at this point.
We don't at this point.
We do not, and we came here because of
Strongly
COVID.
suggest we
and-
look at it.
Right, all right. That's a good point, and something further to consider.
I want to go back to the, I guess you said, and you charge the county for the population.
Yes, sir.
It's 3 years out, with Fairfield County, a lot of population. has been paying extra.
Well, it'll be based on, it'll go down once we adjust it to 2020.
So we're just gonna do that again?
Yeah, it'll probably be, in this next fiscal year, we'll adjust it.
Okay.
All right. Other questions and a couple of things. We'll have the more detailed on this. Yes, sir. And then Missy, our finance director, appreciate it. You hear some things that you might want to incorporate in the future with maybe a different way of presenting it as well. Such as the previous budget and then the revised both. Might be a nice line to have on our notes.
Ben, I have a question here from online. Can you
Go
hear
ahead,
me?
please.
Last month, we voted on revising the budget in the transportation line item. I'm looking at the agenda from last month, and it was 750 for the proposed 2022, and then we had 1.85 million was there was a change we made last month. I'm trying to remember it. Is this reflected in the numbers that we're showing in this month to be approved?
That's all.
It is reflective, what we've done is identify the funding that we have available in transportation, both on the urban and rural side, so that's the number that you see in the budget today. And that will be contingent upon getting the projects done, going through the proper red tape process that's in place now that we have to get approvals. We're not the final say in how we can move projects forward, but if we get proper approvals, then we get this budget spent as it's listed today.
And one problem you mentioned last month is that DOT is understaffed. And so projects that we have in mind, they're gonna do, DOT doesn't have enough people, unfortunately, to get it done. And so we're not able to do all the things we'd like to do. All right, other questions? If not, we would accept a motion to approve this budget as presented. Mr. Nathan, McLeod, and Ms. McLeod, and second. Any further questions or discussions? If not, if you are in favor of the budget as presented, please say aye. Aye. Don't line. Yes, sir. Okay. They didn't comment. And opposed? I got a thumbs up. That's good. All right, so the budget is approved. Thanks to everybody who played a part in putting that together. We'll go forward with some more detail next month. And the good news is, in August, with an approved budget, we get to come back in August. That's right. All right, good deal. All right, thank y'all. Item number 2, 2020-27 TIP amendment, White Pond Road, Whiting Way intersection, enclosure 4, Mr. Simmons.
We have a question on approval to amend the 2020 to 2027 transportation improvement program on TIP. To add $2 million for the White Pond Road Whiting Way intersection improvement project. Back in 2017, we partnered with Kershaw County to do a transportation management study that we called the West Waterloo Transportation Plan. Out of that plan, this intersection improvement project was identified, and that request at Kershaw County, we are pursuing looking at this project for funding. Yes, this project is located just off of the interstate, as you can see on the map. There's 2 medical facilities right close to the project. There's a very active and busy BP station right next to the project. There's a truck stop on the other side of the interstate. This area gets a lot of traffic. Chairman Burns from Kershaw County has noted that this area has increased by 72% in growth over the past several years. And so today we request to add this project into our TIP. The proposed improvements would include a traffic signal at this location, making this section of White Pond Road 3 lanes, giving a dedicated left turn lane, adding in some pedestrian improvements, as well as some asset management improvements that we think will help improve this area and include functional flow through this intersection. Once again, I request to add $2 million to our transportation improvement program for the White Pond Road Whiting Way intersection improvement project.
You have heard the request by Mr. Simmons. Explanation. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to add $2 million in God share funds?
So move.
Second.
Where'd you get that?
Can we identify the source of the funds? Source of the funds are coming from the CMCOG gotcha.
Any questions or discussion? If not, we have a motion and a second to add $2 million God share funds for the White Pond Road Whiting Way intersection. If you are in favor of that, please say aye.
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 And opposed? And that passes unanimously. Item number 3, 2020-27 TIP amendment, section 5310 projects, enclosure 5. Mr. Simmons, these are some of our good nonprofits in the Midlands that we're gonna help get some vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Talk about it, please.
Staff is requesting your approval to add the section 5310 projects to our 2020 to 2027 TIP and human service coordination plan. CMCOG is designated recipient for the section 5310 program. The goal of this program is to provide an improved mobility for seniors and persons with disabilities and remove barriers to transportation services. The program grant funds can be used for capital, mobility management, and operating expenses. The goal of the program are to meet the special needs of seniors and persons with disabilities when public transportation is unavailable and inappropriate. The projects that exceed ADA requirements, projects that improve access to the fish route services of public transportation, and projects that look at transportation alternatives for seniors and persons with disabilities. We did a call for projects for the FY 2020 funds. The first call went out on May 3rd, the second call went out on June 1st. We received 4 applications that requested 4 vehicles and personal service. The persons requesting vehicles received resources, 1 vehicle, the Babcock Center, 2 vehicles, Arnold Chicken Recreation Commission, 1 vehicle, and personal services from CMRTA. In total, we received total federal requirements of total federal requests of $480,086. Please note that each vehicle has to be ADA compliant. Next slide. For the FY 20 cycle, we received 480,640 funds. That leaves us with $551 for administration. We have no remaining dollars to leave on the table. We request to add these 4 projects into our 2020 to 2027 transportation improvement program.
Good deal. Y'all heard a well-placed, a well-described project. Mr. Bell, Mr. Kelly, Irma. Questions or discussions? I'm always proud of you. These are good things. No questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And that passes, including Mr. Boozer. Glad you're here. All right, very good. You can drive that home some fun. All right, item number 4, 2045, long range transportation plan, town election projects, enclosure 6, Mr. Simmons.
We request your approval to amend the 2045 long range transportation plan, our LRTP, to include the town listing, improvement projects. The town has developed what they call the local TIP, LTIP. The LTIP is used to address their transportation needs for the town based on their development needs as well as their long range planning needs. The LTIP has provided a positive impact for the town as they've identified 22 local potential projects that they've included in the Lexington County capital improvement sales tax plan. They were asked us to include these projects that are fairly eligible into our 2045 LRTP for future consideration for funding. In your packet, you have the list that you see on the screen. And once again, we request to add these projects into our 2045 LRTP.
All right, y'all have heard that request. Town of Lexington list. Is there a motion to do that?
Motion approved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
And who was the motion told you that, Mr. Favor?
Mayor.
That's Mayor McDougal, thank you, and Mr. Cole, all right. I would expect Mayor McDougal, standing past chairman, will endorse that idea. Questions or discussion? All right, if you're in favor of this, of adding to the list, please say aye.
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 And opposed? And that passes, motion passes, thank you very much. Item 5, fiscal year 2023-25, disadvantaged business enterprises, our DBE goal, Mr. Simmons, I'm pleased to read that we have exceeded our DBE goal, we have a new goal. So talk about it, please.
So you have the full presentation in the package, so I'm gonna just try to touch on the highlight points of the slides. We're requesting today to set our DB goal for the next 3 years at 8%. CMCOG has the ability to establish DB goals on federal system projects. We do contract specific goals for each of the projects, but we do reserve the right to not set goals on those projects and hope that we can achieve the goals through what's called a region neutral process. This is a federal requirement and must be updated every 3 years. We have to submit our goal methodology to FTA by August 1st, and FTA will review that goal and hopefully accept it, but they do have the opportunity to reject it. The purpose of the DB program is to ensure that we have a level playing field on FTA assisted contracts. Our program has to be narrowly tailored. We must remove any barriers for DB to participate in our processes, and we ensure that we work with DBs that meet federal standards and participate as a certified DBE. The overall goal is set through a process that I'm gonna talk about in just 1 minute. It's not set based off the national goal, what we've done in the past, or any kind of historical participation, and setting our goal does require consultation and publication. As we go through this process, we identify the North American Industry Classification Study, system codes to identify which type of projects that we can do. We identify 2 codes in this process to do the planning studies as well as have attorneys who assist us in writing contracts. Going through that process, we identified that 15% of the companies that do consulting services that are certified DBEs are really willing and able to help, and then only 1.2% of attorneys are certified to assist us in our efforts. Overall, we set a base goal. We have 38 certified DBEs on the DOT list, and then using the state as our marketing area, we have over 2,700 companies available. We only built some base goal of 1.38%. We go through the rating process. We look at each of the individual projects that you see identified. We multiply our contracting opportunity time with the very willing and able DBEs, and we come up with a weighted goal of 15.2%. When we look at historical participation, over the past 3 years, we've completed 3 projects. We spent a total of $1,034,651. Approximately $250,000 that went to DBE throughout the whole process. We had a DB goal for 5% over that 3-year time frame. We actually had DB participation at 24%. When we go through the process of calculating our next 3-year DB goal, look at our base goal, look at historic participation over the past 4 years, we equated to 14.5%. And then we calculate that to come up with an adjusted DB goal of 8%. We put this DB goal out for public comment. It goes out for a 45-day public comment that started on June 8th, ends on July the 27th. It's posted on our website. You can find the packet that we put out for information, and we go through direct consultation with anyone who has any questions about it. We go by the PowerPoint that's included in the packet. We're going through the future presentations to announce this goal. We're announcing it today at this committee. We're announcing it at our transportation subcommittee, and we also did a joint presentation to comment on June 16th. We also have a survey on our website. We invite you to go fill out that survey. Get better at people invited there.
All right, very good. And so, here, page 7, I guess we call it a draft letter to Ms. Foster, Federal Transportation Administration, transit, and setting our goal at 8%. All right, and so, to send this letter, we would need to approve it. All right, so Mr. Bell, second, Mr. Davis, any questions or discussion? You in favor of setting the DB goal at 8%, and us moving forward with this plan as Mr. Simmons explained, please say aye.
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 Opposed? And that passes. Item 2045, rural long-range transportation plan amendment, Drayton Street Bridge replacement. This is in the city of Newberry. I'll explain this quickly. I learned last month that with Columbia applying for the Assembly Street Rail Separation Federal Grant, they were getting the long-range transportation plan. Newberry's doing the same thing. That's all we're trying to do here is get a check mark for our federal application, which may or may not work out. And so the Drayton Street Bridge is owned by the city of Newberry. It was built by the textile mill about 100 years ago when they were building the mill village. They donated at some point to the city of Newberry. We should have had them donate it to DOT. That was our mistake. Some 50 or 60 years ago, I guess, or more than that. So anyway, now we got to get this bridge fixed and or replaced. And it's $2.3 million. We applied for a grant. And for us to have a shot at it, we got to be in the long range transportation plan. Mr. Simmons, do you have anything else to add there? It's not eligible for DOT funding or COG funding. The COG doesn't do bridges and DOT doesn't do municipally owned bridges.
Move for approval of accept.
Davis, Second, McLeod, any questions or discussion? If you
I have
have,
a question, Mayor.
Please.
Is it a possibility to just actually remove the bridge?
it's a well-traveled road.
I mean, replace it with culvert, so it passes over a creek.
It does. It doesn't. Our main creek in Newberry is called Scotch Creek.
That's a predicament.
It's a predicament. All right. So, any other questions? If not, if you're in favor of adding this to the long range transportation plan, Drayton Street Bridge, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? And that is added, that passes. Item number D1, Agent Spotlight American Rescue Plan. Candace Holloway's coming to the podium for, can I just go ahead and say about a 5-minute presentation? Is that what you count on? Okay, great. Well, Candace, you come to the podium. We appreciate the good work you all are doing.
Thank you.
And thanks for giving us an update.
We'll stand in this area because that way they can hear you on the camera. The mic's not over here, the microphone.
Okay.
On that here.
Okay, no problem. Good afternoon, everyone. I won't be before you too long, but I do want to provide you with an update on what we're doing on area 8 and receiving the American Rescue Plan money from we received last year. So this rescue plan was implemented under the 65 community commitment in various ways outside of our normal services that we provide. All right, the AAA, you already know the AAA consists of 4 programs. So that is ombudsman, there's also just informational assistance and also the family caregiver support program, along with several different support programs such as on the little hill, individuals going to a senior center, someone receiving homemaker, personal care services, and also legal services. And it does not stop. So we provide several different services at implement area 8. But along with the American Rescue Plan, as things change, as our seniors evolve and need different things, We noticed that home delivered meals is not the highest need. Of course, we have meals that are local necessary, but we have seen through, a lot of our research, a lot of these, I guess, report receipts at CPOA, that pest control is a huge issue. I've seen the assistance with pest control in the home. Also, they need assistance with yard work. They don't have anyone to keep up with their hedges, cut the grass, get limbs out of the yard, especially as they get older. And then also expanding our 3D services. And, Ms. Andrew Booth and I, we spoke about that in depth, about expanding our 3D services to better assist our seniors as they are still living in the home. So with these ARPA funds, we will develop these programs to better assist our seniors to continue to age in place and successfully replace them.
Very good, Ms. Holly, and I have really appreciated on all y'all are doing, including our folks from Senior Resources in Fairfield, that help people stay at home, and age in place.
Yes.
And what the work the COG is doing, and that's what we all want to do,
Right.
everybody here.
And that's why we're here at AAA, as you know, is to continue to help our seniors age in place in the home and not be in the facility.
Exactly, exactly. All right, y'all got any questions? If not, we're gonna give Ms. Holloway a round of applause. Good new initiatives there. Thank you very much. All right, now Mr. Sprouts is gonna come talk to us, research and planning spotlight, overview of planning activities. Another busy pod person. Mr. Sprouts, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm just gonna give you a really brief overview and tell you about some of the work that we do in our research, planning, and development department. So I produced this graphic to kind of show how it all flows together, and I'll just highlight a few of these items. But first, I want to introduce and let you know that we have a fairly small staff. Guillermo Espinosa is our principal environmental planner, and you've seen him present before on some of these projects. Jason Kent, our GIS manager, and then occasionally we are assisted by an intern. As Ben mentioned, we have a new one coming in from the USC Geography Department. So I break this down into 3 different focus areas, and I'll just touch on each one. So by research, I'm primarily talking about data collection and analysis. So this includes demographic data, economic data, and geographic information systems and mapping data. So this is where we collect the decennial census data, the economic indicators report that we present to you every year, population projections, building permits, and traffic counts, both of which are data sets we've been collecting since the 1980s, 1990s. And then we also assist our local governments, our smaller local governments, with updating zoning and land use maps. The important thing about that part is that it also informs the other 2 parts. So the next one is planning. And by this, we talk about, we have regional planning projects, and then we also provide technical assistance to our smaller local governments in terms of helping with updating comprehensive plans, which under state law have to be updated every 10 years and reviewed every 5 years. Zoning, land development regulations, and those types of things. And then on the regional planning side, our primary focus areas are water resource management. So we have 3 things that I'll mention there: the 208 Regional Water Quality Management Plan, which governs regional sewer planning under Section 208 of the Clean Water Act. As Ben mentioned, we are in the process of getting ready to start updating that plan, and we'll probably have more information to bring to you at the August board meeting. The Three Rivers Watershed-based plan we've mentioned to the board before, but that is wrapping up, and it's a really collaborative effort between City of Columbia, Richland County Stormwater, and the Lexington Countywide Stormwater Consortium. And Guillermo will probably be bringing that to present in a little more detail for you at an upcoming meeting. You heard from him on the Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, which is required to be updated every 5 years by FEMA. We have that, that has been adopted by the board, and Guillermo is now working with all the local governments to get that update adopted at the local level. Concrete Biosphere Reserve is another planning effort that Guillermo is working on to help establish an advisory committee for the concrete biosphere. And then regional food system planning is another area that we've been working on with at both the local and state level. So I plan to bring some information related to regional food system planning to you at an upcoming board meeting as well. So the final part is the development side, and this is where we focus on community and economic development initiatives. We're focused on providing assistance with grant administration. The primary program is the Community Development Block Grant Program. That's the HUD funded program that comes to either a entitlement local government. So we work with Lexington County and partners very closely on those projects. And then the State Department of Commerce for the rural areas. So we work with local governments to prepare the required needs assessment, develop project ideas that are eligible for funding, and then help in the application and grant administration process. The other big area is Economic Development Administration. This is under the U.S. Department of Commerce. And we are the designated economic development district. The thing I want to highlight there is that one of the required planning documents that has to be updated every 5 years is the comprehensive economic development strategy. And I'll say a couple of things about that on the next slide. Before we go there, I also wanted to just talk about other grant funding sources. We've been working over the last several years to expand our grant portfolio and trying to help our local governments and community partners identify and apply for other types of funding opportunities. So we've been successful with National Park Service civil rights grants. We've also been working with USDA grant opportunities, South Carolina Rural Infrastructure Authority, and some other mechanisms that we've been working on, particularly charitable foundations, which we've been working through our local community development corporation, which for those of you that are not familiar, is a separate 501c3 that we work under, that has a separate board of directors, and we've been doing a lot of really great and innovative things to build the capacity of that nonprofit organization. So the last slide is just wanted to highlight this comprehensive economic development strategy update. So we're currently working on the required background data collection and information, but we are required to develop this through a said strategy committee, which we will be working with over the next couple of months. And towards the end of the early fall, we'll be bringing back our findings on this report to the board for adoption. So just wanted y'all to be aware that this is something that is one of the big projects we'll be working on. We are working on this calendar year. And it's a great document, and as we work with local governments to identify potential EDA funded projects, it's important that we align that with this planning document. I think I'm close to that 5 minute mark.
All right, Mr. Strauss, well done, very busy. What questions y'all have?
Mr. Chairman, this is Wilbur, and I have a question.
Please.
Gregory, you mentioned development participation in growing these small women and minority-owned businesses. Do you gather that from all the counties and municipalities that are members and bundle it up into one list that you could share with us? I know a lot of times for procurement, we like to foster and grow small businesses, minority and women-owned businesses, but sometimes it's a struggle. So any regional data you could share with the members, I think would go a long way in our procurement efforts.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that we're working on is a regional inventory of existing programs. One of our goals and that we've identified and working with our stakeholders is that there's some really great opportunities to try to link small businesses in the rural areas that don't have the same level of support for these programs with market opportunities in the Columbia area, particularly with like Richland County and the city of Columbia that have programs that they could try to tap into. So one of our goals in this planning update to our said strategy is to try to do a better job of kind of linking all of the different programs that are out there across the region. One of which is tying in with the DBE program that Reginald was mentioning as well. So that's something that we're working on and definitely happy to share.
Wonderful. And one last question, Mr. Chairman. Gregory, your coordination on the master plan for economic development initiatives regionally, I guess you have interaction with, for example, City of Columbia, our economic development and staff on our goals, and you roll those into kind of your overall master plan?
Exactly. The said committee is, the makeup of that is dictated in the federal requirements, and that does include representatives from our local government economic development programs, as well as other community partners and stakeholders. And then, as we see on this slide, the other key component is coordination and synthesis with other plans. So that the phase that we're in right now is really trying to bring all that information together from the goals and strategies that have been identified in the different local plans and kind of bring that all together into this regional framework.
Great, great. Look forward to hearing from you on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. With the infrastructure bill and all the other things, or do you think there's more out there than ever, and should our member governments really be active?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think that from what we're hearing, there's a lot of new opportunities and we're trying to keep up to date with everything that's out there, but definitely ensure that everybody's paying attention to all the new opportunities that are out there, and we'll definitely try to share them as they come about.
Very good. Y'all got anything else? Well done, Mr. Sprouse. A lot of good things going on with you and Ms. Holloway and Ms. Harmon and everybody else that's involved. So thank you all. Give a good. And then I believe, I know I do, I look forward to Georgie's updates. And so thanks for bringing them back every 2 or 3 months. And that leads to our executive director's report.
I'll just be real brief. There are some really interesting things going on that I want to bring to your attention. In transportation, we've just released an RFP for the Columbia East Traffic Improvement Area. This is going to be a land use and transportation plan that will evaluate existing land use and potential transportation alternatives to address long-term multimodal needs. And
What's
that's
going to be Garner's Ferry?
yes, let's see the map right there.
I can't quite see that.
Yeah. And so
That's 378.
yeah. Can
Okay.
you describe the area, Rachel?
It's kind of the Garner's Ferry area on the east side of Columbia, going down to the fairgrounds and coming up to the edge of downtown.
Okay.
So,
Very good.
As you see at the bottom, it says the plan will build off the planning and development requirements of the city of Columbia. So there'll be a lot of collaboration in this project. Next thing I wanted to mention was the SC Brownfields Environmental Site Testing Grant that DHEC is working on to create in conjunction with the 10 councils of government. This is going to be a $1 million grant that can be used to conduct phase 1 and phase 2 environmental site assessments, analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives, and community outreach and planning and other eligible activities. The CMCOG estimated allocation will be just a little over 116,000. So I just wanted to make sure all of our member governments were aware of the brownfields initiative that we're working on. I'll be sending this out this afternoon. You'll get the slides, so you'll have that information as well. This next one is a real important one. Everyone's familiar with the SC Rural Infrastructure Authority. They have $900 million that can be used to improve water, wastewater, and these are going to be small they're not small, $10 million grants per project. There's going to be a webinar Wednesday, June 29th at 10 a.m. Must register in advance. And then they're going to have in-person regional meetings in July and August. They'll let you know the different locations. In fact, I just got an email earlier today, and I'll include that in the information that I sent out this afternoon. The application is going to be streamlined, and the application will be available June 29th. So I guess that's next week. And September 12th is when they'll be actually do that.
And this is where the state put a lot of its American Rescue Plan
Yeah,
funds.
this is all American Rescue Plan.
And we need as many members, Midlands governments to get us part of this as they can.
That's
That's what our goal here.
That's what
We're gonna be the winners of the state.
Yeah,
So
so
we're gonna have more than anybody else. So everybody's got to follow up.
need to get the word, help me get the word out there.
Yeah. We're gonna have the best winners in the world.
That would be wonderful.
Mr. DePass.
May I ask just a quick question?
Yes, sir.
The Columbia East project, is any part of that outside the city limits of Columbia?
it should not be outside city limits.
It's all within the city.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
The grant writing USA training that we host at Central Midlands, we've done this for over 15 years. Can't tell you how many folks have learned how to write grants to the COG. July 18th and 19th, we'll have a few seats available. If you'd like to see about getting someone signed up, please send that over to me. There'll be an advanced grant management class in September. And I believe the last thing I wanted to mention, and I've mentioned this a few times, we still have a few board members that have not sent in their conflict of interest statements regarding the ombudsman. We're still trying to collect a few of those. If you have not, it's Anna. Anna, do you know specifically who does not?
Don't call them by name, but
Victoria has that.
they just don't get your lunch. There's no lunch in their month unless you signed up.
We have to have that information on file for the South Carolina Department on Teaching ombudsman program.
So, yeah, that's your warning shot. No lunch in August. After that, we're off the board.
Okay.
All right,
Last slide.
let's go back to something.
Thank you.
All right, grant writing. I'm going, we just all, and I know the big folks already do it. We really need to be working on all this infrastructure money coming out. I heard it. I was at a conference last week and they said this is the opportunity of a generation. And their advice was, this is a kind of expert on it. He says, don't just apply for everything. See what your needs are. And then see if there are grants that match up. So I think that's good. He said, right now, you need to be looking over the next month, Mr. Sprouse, or two. A bunch of stuff's gonna roll out in the fall. What are our needs? And then go see what might be available. And so the other thing I learned is they told us what you had to do. You have to be the expert to write grants. I couldn't sit down and do it. And so then we have a couple of free spots, do we not?
That's correct.
So especially for our non-big counties, quite frankly, because the counties, y'all mind, y'all have some revenue. But if some of the other towns sitting here want to get somebody trained, they should contact you, Ben, almost immediately to get signed up. And it's only $500, not only, but it's $500. So it's doable, but we got a couple free spots. All right, so it's time to get good grant writers and all member governors and let's write some good grants. All right, Ben, close this down.
Last slide, just special thanks to Midlands Tech. We always like to thank you. In August, we don't meet in July. The next meeting will be August 25th. We'll be back out at the Midlands Tech Harbison campus. We'll be there for a couple of months and then we'll be back here at the airport.
We are Mavericks.
We are Mavericks.
And so thank y'all for hosting. Please pass along our next Dr. Raines as well. All right, y'all got anything else? Any old business? Any new business? Any other business? Next meeting, August 25th, we will take a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kyle, second, Mr. Kelly. Any questions or discussion? If not, in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Indeed, for August 25th. August 25th. Thank y'all for coming. Food was great. Ben, that's fantastic.